Thank you for joining me on my most successful race yet. I intentionally started near the back P11 because I did not want to qualify. I wanted to stay out of everyone's way, but then the cars ahead of me had a poor start and we sort of have to take it slow. Turn 1, always daunting, always dangerous on cold tires, especially in the rookie Mazdas. But surprisingly, everyone is very well behaved. Nobody really goes off here. Nothing happens. No incidents for the cars ahead of me. So that's fine. I was hoping that some people would go off track and we could gain some positions just by virtue of us not going off track, but that didn't happen. So we have to follow in line here with this train and hope for the best. Again, we're pulling up on these cars quite quickly, but because I've decided to be more deliberate, I don't want to risk too much. I'm hanging back until it's a clear opportunity for me to overtake someone without risking too much. Had to slam on the brakes there a little bit too much here, and again we're closing in on the car ahead. After a couple of turns I decided that this is a theme that continues and I will have to make a move and get around this car because I don't want the other cars to pull ahead too much from me, and despite my intention of just finishing the race with 0 incidents, I just decided now that I also want to race a little bit and overtake cars. The reason why I did that is because the previous 2 races went horribly. I was crashed into a lot, and of course that is also partially my fault because I put the car into a spot where other cars would veer into them when they come back onto track. So again, learning experience, and I decided I just want to have a clean race, gain some positions, and actually feel good about it. At the moment I'm not pushing too much because the gap to the car behind is reasonably wide that I'm not too worried about the car from behind making a move either. That's why I'm not pushing too much. But now we're getting closer and it's about time to make a move. The 2 in front had a moment and now we're 3 wide. I just had to take an off track here because I wasn't quite sure if we would all fit and whether the other cars would give me enough room to stay on the left hand side for myself and the others to the right. So I took an off track and then backed out. That's okay, as I figured I can always make another move. I'm now focusing on a better exit on this turn. I managed that. And we're getting into slipstream, which allows me to go around them on the inside. It might seem like I could make a lunge for both of them, but I don't want to risk it just yet because I just want to have a clean race here and make the smart decisions for this particular race. And that means I went around one car. The other car now goes off track onto the side. That compromises their lines here, but I'm too far behind and I'm too cautious, so the car from behind has now caught up again, as well as you can see in the top right screen. But through this chicane I am finding that I do, if I don't hit that curb too much, I do find that I can usually gain some time and distance on the car ahead of me. So I'm now again looking at the back. How far is the car behind me? Is there a threat from behind? No, there isn't. So now I'm just observing the car ahead, figuring out what their driving line is and whether or not I can identify some spots where I might have better entries, exits on the corners than them, and that is where I'm going to make my move. I've learned for this particular track on this particular straight that I don't have to gear up too much. I was gearing up too far in the past, but I think just leaving it in gear 4 is sufficient. I think it was gear 4. Yes, it was gear 4. So usually I would gear up to gear 5 and then shift down again, and that I think is not necessary unless being in the draft behind another car. So now that we are behind this car, I do want to point out that my race here, the intention was to just hang back, collect 0 incidents points, 0x, and just finish a race, gain a couple of positions, and feel good about myself because I did have 2 horrible races beforehand. And that was partially due to my own faults by being in locations on the track where other cars would just crash into it by them coming back onto the track, which was, of course, what happens in iRacing. But now I just wanted to have a good race here. Ironically, that meant I was going from P11 or P12 near the back of the field all the way to P2, my best result so far. And also, the fewest incidents that I could possibly collect, I think, was here 2. So 2 incident points, going to P2, that felt pretty good. The blue car there is going wide a lot. I think that's close to the line that they should be on as going around that turn. And I'm on the wrong here when I go through these turns. But that's all right. We've made up several positions. No threat from behind, no car in the mirror. And I'm going to just stay with the car ahead, hoping to capitalize on any mistakes that they might make. Since this is the full race recap, we're going to have a little bit of monotony here in this particular video because I'm just staying with the car ahead. Nobody's threatening from behind. There's going to be occasionally some cars coming out of the pits that we have to overtake, some back markers. But beyond that, it is a full race recap, and sometimes the races are uneventful. Uneventful races are good. Not so good for YouTube, but of course good for the driving and the experience because you can actually focus on improving your driving techniques. I will also post a highlight video of this particular race where I cut out all the monotonous driving where there's not much action, so that you can only get the action-packed bits on this particular race. But I like the race recaps, the full ones as well, because they allow me to study my own driving and my own driving lines, driving techniques, but also a little bit about my driving psychology. I can reflect on how the drive went, how the race went. If you want to skip ahead a lap to roughly timestamp 7:50, that's when the car in front of us is having a moment and we're getting closer to initiate some overtakes perhaps. And as promised, there's that car having a wide turn through here. That allows us to get closer. They don't lose control too much. They come back on track quite safely, but they've lost a lot of momentum and speed, and we're now getting closer to them. Still, is this the right time to overtake? Do I have enough speed? Not quite yet, so we're braking carefully. They made one mistake. Perhaps they're going to make another one. Yeah, okay, that was a bit of a moment, and they jump over the curb. Does cause them to lose control, and we can capitalize on that and go around them safely. You also notice that several cars are behind us. Those are now something I have to consider, but we're just going to go forward and keep pushing. A red car is going to come out of the pits, but we're fast enough to make our way around them before turn 1, so that's not going to be an issue either. I find that Lime Rock Park is one of those tracks where braking with the, where using the brake pedal to steer is actually quite beneficial. There are other tracks where it's not quite as important, perhaps it is, but I just haven't figured out how to do that correctly all the time. But I find Lime Rock Park really helps. It helps to get around the corners with using the brake pedal to steer. I also found that's the case with the GT4. And I do need the Mazda races to keep my iRating and my safety rating stable, because the GT4 is at least dropping the iRating. I had a very good race in the GT4 at the Canadian racetrack a couple days ago. Only a few incident points for me on that one, and only barely any iRating loss. I did quite well on the GT4. That's why I use the Mazdas. I love the Mazdas. I always go back to them. They're my bread and butter here for sure. But I do love them, and I do use them right now also to practice, of course, more driving techniques and to keep my iRating stable. Whenever it drops from using from driving in the GT4, use the Mazda to bring it back up to the same level as it was before, and that allows me to have some good fun. Some smoke or dust ahead. Where's that car? Can't see it there. Up ahead it is. The green car coming back onto the track. We're going to slow down a little bit to make the corner tighter, and we can safely go around this car. Fantastic. In another position. Car ahead is still visible. Now there's another car visible in front of us. We're going to, again, try to catch up to them. Make sure we can put enough distance between us and the car behind. Since their car has just gone off, usually I find people are more cautious or they make more mistakes at the same time. So that allows us to pull away from them a little bit gradually. Taking the curb, that's fine. Trying to go through here as quickly as possible, maximizing my use of the track, using the curb on the right on the entry and the curb on the left on the exit. Again, trying my hardest not to gear up again. I did not. And starting to brake so that we can go through here, throttle and brake application to help turn the car. At this point, let's again enjoy the music and the drive and focus on looking at my driving technique. Another lap completed. Really good for my mind to just calm down and have a good drive, have a good race here, not making too many mistakes, trying to be consistent, trying to maximize the lines and speed and keeping momentum, braking very little here, coasting more. I decided to coast. This is a corner where I can coast rather than apply the brakes. That seems to have worked. Perhaps I will have to apply the brake later if I can have a faster entry, which means I need to have a fast exit of the previous turn, but for now, I started to coast through here. That is, I'm still able to keep control. Where I lost control here of the car, or barely did have the car under control, and just went straight through the chicane was that particular lap there. It was the last lap. I just did not want to crash it and lose it, so the safest thing for me to do once I realized I couldn't make the corners through the chicane was to just go straight through, pick up another incident point. At this point, at this time in the race, I probably had like 3 or 4 incident points, maybe 2 even only. I think it was only 2. So I took the other one, and there we go. This was my best result, my calmest race ever. It felt great. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.